Video games have evolved dramatically. From simple pixels to immersive experiences, gaming is a journey into new worlds. But these worlds often present us with choices. These choices can be simple, like which weapon to use. Other times they challenge our sense of right and wrong. This is the heart of the gamer's dilemma. How do we reconcile our morals with the actions we take in a virtual world? Games allow us to explore different roles and possibilities. We can be heroes, villains, or anything in between. This freedom to choose raises questions about our own values. What does it mean to do something bad in a game when there are no real-world consequences? The gamer's dilemma makes us think about the nature of morality itself. Is it something absolute and unchanging? Or does it shift and evolve depending on the context? As we delve deeper into the digital age, these questions become increasingly relevant. This essay will explore the fascinating world of the gamer's dilemma. We'll examine its origins, the psychology behind our choices, and the ethical considerations it raises. Join me as we navigate this complex and thought-provoking landscape. The gamer's dilemma isn't brand new. It's been around since the early days of gaming. As games became more complex, so too did the choices they offered. Early games often presented clear-cut scenarios. You were the hero, and your goal was to defeat the enemy. But as technology advanced, games started to offer more nuanced experiences. Games like Ultima and Fallout introduced branching narratives. Players' choices started to have a real impact on the game world. This led to a growing awareness of the ethical dimensions of gaming. The rise of online multiplayer games further complicated things. Now players weren't just interacting with a pre-programmed world, they were interacting with each other. This social dimension added a whole new layer to the gamer's dilemma. Suddenly the actions we took in a game could have social and emotional consequences for other players. This blurring of the lines between the virtual and the real is at the heart of why the gamer's dilemma continues to fascinate and challenge us. Why do we find some virtual actions acceptable while others make us uneasy? It's a question with no easy answers. Context plays a crucial role. In a game like Grand Theft Auto, stealing a car might be seen as part of the fun. But in a game like Stardew Valley, stealing from your neighbors would likely ruin the experience. Our perception of the game world also matters. If a game is designed to be lighthearted and whimsical, we're more likely to forgive actions that would be considered wrong in the real world. But if a game aims for realism, our moral compass tends to kick in more strongly. Then there's the question of consequences. In some games, our actions have minimal impact. We can steal, cheat, or even kill without facing any real repercussions. But other games feature robust consequence systems. Our choices can have a ripple effect, changing the course of the game world and the lives of its characters. Ultimately, the line between acceptable and unacceptable virtual actions is blurry and subjective. It's influenced by a complex interplay of factors, including our own personal values, the context of the game, and the way the game world is designed. What's going on in our brains when we make choices in games? Psychologists have been studying this for years, and their findings are fascinating. One key concept is psychological distance. This refers to the feeling of separation we experience between ourselves and our virtual avatars. When we have a high degree of psychological distance, we're more likely to view our in-game actions as inconsequential. It's like watching a movie. We can enjoy the action without feeling personally responsible for the character's choices. But when psychological distance is low, we feel more connected to our avatars and the game world. This can lead to a heightened sense of moral responsibility. Another factor is our desire for agency. Games give us the power to make choices and shape our own experiences. This can be incredibly liberating and empowering. However, it can also lead to a phenomenon known as moral disengagement. This is when we rationalize our immoral actions in order to preserve our sense of self-worth. For example, a player might justify stealing from a virtual character by telling themselves that it's just a game. Understanding these psychological mechanisms can help us become more aware of how games influence our behavior and moral reasoning. The gamer's dilemma raises important questions about the ethics of entertainment. Do we have a moral responsibility for the actions we take in virtual worlds? Some argue that games are just harmless fun. They allow us to blow off steam and explore different fantasies without harming anyone. Others contend that games can desensitize us to violence and promote harmful behaviors. There's no simple answer. It's important to remember that games are a form of media. Like any form of media, they have the power to influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. As with other forms of media, we need to be mindful of the messages that games are sending. This doesn't mean we need to shy away from games with mature themes, but it does mean we should engage with them critically and thoughtfully. We should ask ourselves why we make the choices we do and what those choices say about our own values. Ultimately, the gamer's dilemma is a reminder that even in virtual worlds, our actions have consequences. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other to play with integrity and empathy. The gamer's dilemma isn't just a theoretical concept. It plays out in the real world in fascinating ways. Studies have shown that players who make morally questionable choices in games are more likely to engage in unethical behavior in real life. For example, one study found that players who cheated in an online game were more likely to lie on a subsequent test. However, it's important to note that correlation doesn't equal causation. These studies don't prove that playing violent video games causes people to become violent in real life. Other factors, such as pre-existing personality traits and environmental influences, play a role. Despite this, the gamer's dilemma can be a valuable tool for understanding our own moral compass. By paying attention to how we make choices in games, we can gain insights into our own values and beliefs. For instance, if we find ourselves constantly making choices that we wouldn't make in real life, it might be a sign that we need to reevaluate our priorities. Game developers have a tremendous amount of power when it comes to shaping our moral choices. Through game design, they can encourage or discourage certain behaviors. For example, a game with a strong emphasis on player choice and consequence is more likely to make us think critically about our actions. On the other hand, a game that rewards us for being ruthless and immoral can normalize those behaviors in our minds. Some developers are using games to explore complex ethical issues. Games like Papers, Please and This War of Mine put players in difficult situations and force them to make tough choices with no easy answers. These games can be incredibly thought-provoking and emotionally engaging. They remind us that morality is rarely black and white. More often than not, it's a messy and nuanced affair. As games continue to evolve, it will be interesting to see how developers continue to grapple with the gamer's dilemma. Will they use their power to create more ethical and responsible games? Or will they continue to push the boundaries of what's considered acceptable? Can our actions in virtual worlds actually reveal something about our real-world morality? It's a question that has sparked much debate. Some believe that our in-game choices are meaningless. They argue that we're simply acting out fantasies and exploring different possibilities. Others contend that our virtual actions can offer a glimpse into our true selves. They point out that even when we're freed from real-world consequences, we still bring our own moral compass to the game. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Our in-game choices are influenced by a complex interplay of factors, including our personality, our values, and the context of the game. While they might not reveal our true moral compass, they can certainly provide valuable insights into our beliefs and motivations. By paying attention to how we behave in virtual worlds, we can learn more about ourselves and how we navigate the ethical dilemmas of real life. The gamer's dilemma is a fascinating and ever-evolving topic. As games become more immersive and realistic, the lines between the virtual and the real continue to blur. This raises important questions about the nature of morality, the ethics of entertainment, and the power of game design. There are no easy answers, but by engaging with these questions thoughtfully, we can become more aware of how games influence our behavior and shape our understanding of right and wrong. The gamer's dilemma reminds us that even in virtual worlds, our choices matter. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other to play with empathy, integrity, and a willingness to grapple with the complexities of the human experience. As we venture further into the digital age, the lessons we learn from the gamer's dilemma will become increasingly relevant.